Hi, everybody. I know it's been a while. Holidays and New Year's and a new grandbaby and uh, so much going on in my life, but I miss you guys. um, I watched JW broadcast the January 2018 broadcast. Oh boy, was that really a broadcast? There was nothing on it but what buildings they owned, what buildings they've sold, what buildings they've built, what buildings they fixed. Um, they were trying to show that God had a hand in it all, Jehovah's hand in everything, and how inspirational that is. And personally, I think that if a person has faith, it doesn't matter if you're Jehovah's Witness, God helps you. You know, you don't have to be a JW to be faithful to God and a follower of Jesus. But my biggest thing is, and I took these notes. See, I wrote down each and every time they said certain things. And on my list, as usual, is how many times they say these words: Jehovah, Jesus, organization, Satan, governing body, and faithful and discreet slave. You ready for the total? It never lets me down because they always do this. But they mention Jesus 5 times. They mention Satan 4 times. Jehovah, they mentioned 126 times. Governing body 10, faithful and discreet slave 1. For an organization that claims to be followers of Christ, footstep followers of Christ, they say, they never talk about him. Now, the only reason that they said Jesus these 5 times was because they quoted a Bible verse that mentioned him or something that he said. Other than that, they don't talk about him and what he does for people in their lives, or anything about following him. It's always following Jehovah. And the bad thing about that is that when you focus on Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah all the time, and you fail to talk about Jesus and what he did and what he does, it belittles his presence. They're supposed to spread the good news. Well, who gave them the good news? Do they know what the good news is? I've talked to several JWs on the internet. They don't know what the good news is they're supposed to preach. They don't know where the kingdom of God is. They don't know the members of their governing body. They can't recognize them by photograph. They don't recognize their names. I mean, so much is missing from what they profess to be. They say this and they say that, and they tell people, oh yeah, this, and but they don't practice what they preach. In other words, it's not really a focus. They did do a little bit of damage control also, I noticed, because they did talk about, they said this is a quote: truth is not measured in numbers. So they want the members to know that even though there's not a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, that it's still the truth. So they just kind of rub that in there. Also, they said that the sale of all those properties that they sold in New York, the sale of those properties more than covered the building of the New World headquarters. Because they had volunteers do it, and basically that's what the whole video was about, all the volunteers and all the hours they spent and all that. But if the selling of the properties more than paid for building the new world headquarters, why then do they keep telling the members that there's more money going out than coming in? That doesn't make sense to me. They talk about all the kingdom halls that they built. In 2017, they said 1,000 kingdom halls were built. Well, some of them were built to replace ones they already had. So it's not like they have more kingdom halls, just that they have newer kingdom halls. But they don't say it that way. They just say that they built 1,000 kingdom halls in 2017. The people that were up there gave experiences about things that happened while they were building the New World headquarters, and they were scripted. It didn't just flow out of them naturally. When you listen to them talk about it, it was like it was written down and they're reading it. You know, it doesn't just come from the heart. There were key words in everybody's experience that they told where they had to include the words Jehovah's hand. You know, so they were all written out. They were all scripted, probably okayed and approved before they could do it. Things like that. But I thought the January 2018 broadcast of Jehovah's Witnesses was a big letdown. It really didn't say anything about upbuilding or any spiritual food whatsoever. Nothing. There was no spiritual food in that. It was just how many buildings we had, how many buildings we have, how long it took to build them, and dedicating a few of the new ones. But as far as any spiritual food for the members of the organization, nothing. They did quote a couple scriptures, but that was just because of the dedication ceremony for the buildings, you know. Really big letdown. But I'm gonna go through the people have been talking about the new watchtowers. They're only gonna come out like three a year. They're gonna alternate a watchtower and then an awake, a watchtower and an awake. But I think there's only like 3 or 4 coming out a year. Excuse me. So I'm gonna go through there and I want to read it. I want to see if there's any spiritual food in a watchtower anymore. Because I glanced through it yesterday. And this is supposed to... The Jehovah's Witnesses on the street are saying that their belief of not so many watchtowers being printed is because so that they have time to digest them. You know, these are people that remember that there was a watchtower a month. But when I was growing up, there was 2 watchtowers and 2 awakes printed every month. And now they're down to 1 every 3 or 4 months. That doesn't seem like it's going to give them very much spiritual anything to digest. I went through what the study edition, and to me it didn't look like there was any spiritual food in there to digest. So I think for 2018 we're going to see a bigger flood of people coming out of that organization, because they're not getting any meat. You know, they're not being taught anything, it seems. But when I go through the new watchtower, I'll get back with you. I'll make another video, because from what I saw, there wasn't anything there. It's kind of like they've given up on the religion side of Watchtower, and they're becoming something else. So we'll just see what happens in 2018. But I think a lot more people will be leaving, because there's just not that much information for them to digest anymore in there. It doesn't seem like it at all. But I'll get back to you on that. You guys have a great week. It finally warmed up in Oklahoma. It's going to be 62 today. I talked to some friends earlier. They said where they live it was going to be like 65, and you know, I love it. It's been below freezing here so long. Today I finally could turn the heat off in my house. I got my sweater on because it's a little chilly, but I don't have to have the heat on. I'm dreading my electric bill. But I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.